Hello, today we're going to talk about intestinal hyperpermeability. We're going to use the street name, leaky gut. Now, I've been doing this for 20 years, and 20 years ago when you would say leaky gut, most people would laugh. Well, they still laugh. It is still pretty funny right now, but at least now, almost everybody's heard of the term leaky gut. You may not know what it is, but you've probably heard it, and then I'm going to do my best to try to explain, how it happens, how it occurs. And specifically, with gluten, how gluten causes it. Many different causes, but gluten is a big trigger for it. So here is an example or a slide of a healthy piece of gut here, and then here's what we're going to call our leaky gut, this damaged piece of gut. So in health, normal functioning gut, you're going to eat foods, you're going to break them down into the parts your body can use. They're going to pass through these cells and get into the bloodstream, and then your blood's going to take it and live it. And the things that you don't want, the body's going to keep in the intestines, and then you're going to excrete it later, right? So now, in how gluten can affect this, how gluten can damage this healthy process, is that some individuals, or many individuals actually, let me back up, a small group of individuals, they have something called celiac disease, or a propensity they have the genetics to develop celiac disease. Everybody knows they have to avoid gluten. But there's another class of people that have the genetics to develop something called non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So in those individuals, they won't develop celiac disease, but they'll develop some other chronic illness, like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, just to name a few. There's literally hundreds of them. But how that works is if you're genetically susceptible, whether it's the celiac or the non-celiac gluten sensitivity, if that's your genetic makeup, when you eat gluten, it's going to cause an inflammatory response and damage this gut lining, eventually leading to little holes, essentially, in the gut. Now, many people tell me, they go, well, how come I could eat gluten for years, maybe decades, before they started having a problem with it? Or maybe they don't feel anything when they're eating it. And the reason why is the cells of the gut repair themselves about every 3 to 5 days. They're very rapid. One of the fastest cells in your entire body. So one of the stories I'll tell patients to help them understand this is that before you develop symptoms, many times people were eating gluten. Let's just say in a typical day for breakfast, they would have toast or a waffle or pancake. They would get a tear, and then it would heal. And then lunchtime, they would have a sandwich, they get a tear, and then it would heal. And then for dinner, they'd have pasta, they would get a tear, and then it heals. Okay, now, they would do that week after week, year after year, until one day, it doesn't heal. And then when it doesn't heal, it sets off this inflammatory process in the gut wall, the gut lining, and now you create these little breaches in the barrier where things now, like we said, normally in a healthy gut, it would have kept out. Now we're getting particles that can get into the bloodstream that should have never been there, and it drives your immune system wild. So in the beginning, your immune system will identify those as foreign invaders, and it'll take care of them. But if you continue to expose yourself to this, again, month after month, year after year, the immune system gets really aggravated, almost hypervigilant. So now it starts to think parts of you look like the things it's attacking. So now that's where you can start to get these chronic inflammatory diseases like these autoimmune disorders, because your immune system's now been triggered through this process. So I hope that makes sense on how gluten can damage the gut lining in many individuals. You may already know that. If you don't know that, a lot of times we like to do a gene test. You could do a genetic test to tell you whether you're celiac, or the genetic predisposition of celiac, or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. If you carry those genes, it's highly advisable to eliminate gluten from your diet, so that if you are having symptoms, you can start to heal and reverse those, or two, don't end up in that situation in the first place.